today's video. In today's video, I will be discussing why the Republicans need to run a moderate, and why if the Republicans were to run a moderate, how they could actually win in 2024. So I'm going to go label the map. I'm going to go label a lot of these typical safe states as I talk about this. So obviously Democrats, for this, we're just going to assume they're probably going to run Kamala Harris. I haven't put it down. I'll go right Kamala Harris. We're just going to assume that they run Kamala Harris. For the Republicans, there are a lot of Republicans that they can run that are more moderate Republicans. They could run, like, Charlie Baker. They could run a lot of these Northeastern Democrats, Charlie Baker, Chris Sununu, Phil Scott, Larry Hogan. They could run other Democrats, maybe Ben Sass, maybe Marco Rubio. A lot of options, more moderate Republicans, a lot of options for these Republicans that they can run. Actually, I think that Kansas would be safe. And same with Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, all this would be safe. If they were to run a more moderate Republican, let's just say Charlie Baker. But, anyways, back to why they need to, not just Charlie. Yes, they'll run Charlie. No, Charlie Baker. But back to why, I completely forgot about West Virginia. There's no way that's not going to be, relatively competitive. A lot of the Republican Party is most likely in the future going to be the party of Donald Trump and Trumpism. And I think that that's bad for the Republican Party as the nation's shifting to the left and Republican ideas are going to get more radical and more radical in America. I have a video on that. You guys can go watch that. But if you look at this, if the GOP... Now, there would have to be serious action from moderates. Trump has an 87% approval rating among Republicans, and he won, I believe, 95% of the Republican vote anyways. In the presidential election, these Republicans, I think that Trumpism would be obviously very approve. I think that someone like a Trumpist candidate that's not Trump, like, I don't want to say a fresh face because these candidates aren't, well, some of them are, like, but they're not necessarily fresh faces, but they're fresh faces to, like, the presidency. Like Ted Cruz, for example, he ran in 2016, but he's not been even a nominee yet. So I think a lot of these fresh faces could do better with Trumpism, and I think that they could win even more of the Republican vote and probably win. So I don't know how necessarily the Republican Party would be able to move away from Trumpism. There would have to be a large, moderate, traditionalist movement in the GOP. And that movement would have to win back a lot of those Trump voters that did end up voting for the Democratic or that voted for Trump and became Trumpist type candidates. But anyways, back to the map. So my likely Democratic states. I don't know necessarily that there are many. Minnesota could be likely. It's going to be on the verge. I don't think it will be likely, so I'm just going to label it a toss-up. Oh, New Mexico and Colorado. I think that Colorado and New Mexico would both be likely states. If Charlie Baker were to run, I think that Colorado would probably be around a 9% margin of victory, while New Mexico would probably be around 8%. They're going to be around that general area. So I think that that's New Mexico and Colorado. If Charlie Baker were to run, the likely Republican states. South Carolina is likely, Iowa's likely, Ohio is likely, they're all going to be likely. Iowa probably going to be around 10, 11, 12% maybe. Ohio probably more like 9 or 10%. South Carolina is probably going to be about 13%-ish. Also Alaska is probably going to shift to the right, like 11, 12, 13% victory for Charlie Baker in Alaska. Now for the lean Democratic states. I think that Nevada would still be a lean Democratic state. If we... Oh, by accident made Alaska likely or lean. I think that... Oh, wait, hold up. I'm going to talk about Maine for a second. Maine second, especially given the regional advantage. Charlie Baker would probably win this by like 14%, 13%-ish. If you didn't know, he's the governor of Massachusetts. But now, next up, the state of Nevada. We've seen in elections where Republicans did well, like 2016, that Nevada stayed more or less immune to it. We saw Donald Trump do just as well in 2016 as he did in 2020 in the state of Nevada. I think that it's like the nation basically shifted to the right in 2016. A lot of these states shifted by large margins to the right. But Nevada was 2.4, and then when it went to 2020, when most of these states shifted to the left, Nevada stayed immune. Actually, I'm going to go take a look at this real quick. If you take a look at this and you go look at compare past elections versus past elections, Nevada shifted 0.017%. That's according to some things. I've seen other things where it shifted 0%, like it hasn't shifted. So it all really depends, but the general consensus is Nevada hasn't moved. It's essentially the same as it was in 2016. I think that it'll probably stay immune to this. I think it would shift a little bit to the right. I think it'll probably be like a 1.9% victory. But I think that at the end of the day, Nevada will still probably be a lean Democratic state. Next lean Democratic state, I'm going to say is the state of New Hampshire. I think it'll probably be like a 2-3% victory. I think New Hampshire will probably revert back to its true swing state category. That is, like I said, if Charlie Baker were to run. Not only would the moderate support be able to shift it to the right, but also the fact that he has a regional advantage will probably shift New Hampshire to the right, enough for it to be a 2-3% margin of victory. Another state I think will do similar is the state of Minnesota. I think it'll probably be 2-3, maybe 4% margin of victory if Kamala Harris does well. I think that's generally where it will be. Enough for the lean Republican states. First off is the state of Texas. I think that this state, it's obviously shifting to the left. I think it won't shift as much to the left as it would before, but it was only, it was less than a percentage point outside of being a Democratic, or outside of being a lean state. I think it'll probably shift 2% to the left as opposed to 3, maybe even potentially 4% to the left. So Texas, probably something like that. I'll go talk about, I completely forgot, Nebraska second. I think it would be a lot like New Hampshire, probably like a 2-3% victory. Not much else to say there. Oh, state I completely forgot earlier, Virginia. I think it'll be a lot like Colorado and New Mexico. It'll shift probably a few percentage points to the right. Probably at best for Republicans, 8% victory for Democrats. At best for Democrats, a 12% victory. Something around there in the state of Virginia. Now let's continue on to these lean Republican states. I think that Florida will probably be lean Republican. I think that Charlie Baker would do pretty well with the older white vote, which he definitely needs. Or he would obviously wouldn't, but I think he would do strong among the older white voters. But I think he could also do, I don't necessarily think that he would have the best support among Latino and Hispanic voters, but I think he would have solid support. He wouldn't necessarily be a phenomenal candidate, but he would be all right. I think that he could win enough of their vote to win the state. I think he would probably get between 1% and 2%, something around there. Not too large of a margin, but a decent margin nonetheless. Now let's go label some more states. Let's go label. Also North Carolina. I think will probably be lean red. It'll be probably a little bit larger than 2020's margin. Actually, probably around 2020's margin. I would assume a 1.5% victory-ish for Charlie Baker, something around there. So I'm gonna say North Carolina is around. I also think he could win back. I don't want to say win back. I think he could do better among the white suburban vote. I don't think he would win it back, but he could do better than Trump did. Now there's a few states left to talk about: the Rust Belt, Georgia, and Arizona. These are actually the states that I think these are at. I think these are all the toss-up votes at the moment. Yes, they are. So I think that or these are the states that Joe Biden managed to flip this year from 2016. I'll go get started. I think that Charlie Baker would win Arizona by tilt margins. It would be close. It would be very close. I think that Kamala Harris could honestly also pull away with tilt margin victories. I don't think that any candidate will win by over a half a percentage point. The state is shifting to the left and getting a larger minority population, but the state also likes to elect traditional conservatives. So it's really up to if the state has shifted so far to the if the state it really depends on how far the state shifts to the left, because I think that at the moment, at the moment it would be a legit toss up, maybe leaning towards Charlie Baker, but it would be incredibly close. It just all depends on if in 4 years the state would still be willing to vote for a Republican. We've seen Doug Ducey win here by 3% margins ish. But I don't necessarily know that they would do the same with Charlie Baker, and it is 4 years from now, or I guess 3 years from now. Basically 4 years. So it really depends on how the state chooses to vote for, or choose how the state shifted. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. And if they will, vote for a traditional Republican over a Democrat, or if they've basically at this point given up on the Republican Party, which is a very real possibility considering how bad the Arizona Republican Party is at the moment. Now, a few more states. Georgia is probably tilt red. I think that Kamala Harris could raise turnout pretty significantly. I think that she would do well here. But I don't think it would necessarily be enough, especially to overcome a traditionalist. I think that in 2028, it would probably be lean blue, even against a traditionalist. But in 2024, it would probably be tilt red. Maybe tilt blue. It's not like Arizona. Also, the fact that a lot of these minority voters are turning out, considering the fact that in the runoffs, we were seeing these minority voters getting shares of the electorate that resembled their share of the population. I don't think that these voters will just for no reason decide to not vote in any random election. So I think that this one, like I said, will be incredibly close. It's a lot like Arizona, except for not necessarily with how much it shifted to the left. It really depends on if that minority turnout stays high. It really could do anything. The minority turnout could stay where it's at, and in which case I would label it tilt blue. If it doesn't, I would label it tilt red. So I'm really not sure how to characterize this one. So I'm going to label it tilt blue just because the minority turnout looks like it's going to stay where it is. Same thing with Arizona. These states, like I said, they are really they all depend. And it's hard for me to make a prediction right now, as we're 4 years from then, and anything can happen in 4 years. So, it's, like I said, it's very difficult for me to tell. But both of these states, I think that Arizona, and Georgia, they would both, like I said, depend on how they shift or how turnout stays. And if Charlie Baker can win back that vote, that independent, more moderate vote, especially in the states where in Senate races, when, or at least in Georgia, when turnout was higher and groups got larger shares of the electorate that represented the share of the population, if it would be able, if that moderate vote would be able to do it for him, which I don't think it would be able to do it for him, which is I'm going to label them both tilt blue. I think that they would both be very competitive, though. Like I said, it all depends. Now, up here to the Rust Belt, Wisconsin would probably be a lean red. Maybe tilt red. We saw them vote for Trump by almost 1% in a year that, Hillary Clinton was very disliked. But considering the fact that Charlie Baker is much more moderate than Donald Trump was, and that he would probably be able to do decent among the white working class, but he also could appeal to a lot, what am I saying? He also could, I think, flip the state and win by larger margins because, like, if you average them out, Joe Biden loses. If you average the margins out from 2016 to 2020, Joe Biden loses by 0.1%. I think that he could capitalize on that and extend that margin, win by about 1.5%. I think that Wisconsin probably lean red at the moment. Michigan, however, I'm not even sure if it should be tilt blue. I'm just looking at these numbers. I don't know if Kamala Harris would actually win, and there's so many controversial states. Like I said, I don't know about these two. So these two, I'm tempted to put in toss-up columns. I'll throw them in the toss-up right now, and then I'll characterize them probably at the end of the video. Michigan, like I said, probably lean blue, or tilt blue. Charlie Baker, I think, can appeal to a lot of that white working class vote. I think that Kamala Harris would win it by less than a half a percentage point, 0.2%. Probably something around there. And Charlie Baker, I think, could flip a lot of that vote. State of Pennsylvania, not Maryland. Maryland is not going to vote red. State of Pennsylvania is probably tilt red. I think it'll probably be like a 0.8, 0.7% margin of victory, similar to what Trump won it by in 2016. I think that, like I said, Charlie Baker can probably do pretty well among the white working class, which will obviously benefit him. So I'm going to label Pennsylvania a tilt red state. Now, coming back to Georgia and Arizona, as I said, they are both definitely very difficult for me to make a prediction in, because, like I said, there's not much for us to see. In the state of Georgia, I think that turnout will stay where it's at. I don't see voters turning out for this election but not turning out for that one. But then again, Charlie Baker may win some of that more moderate vote. Like I said, it's really competitive in these two. Arizona, I think that there's a decent chance that Charlie Baker wins there. As, like I said, he could win some of the traditional vote. It really depends on how the state shifts. Georgia, it also depends on the turnout. So that's where I'm going to leave those two states. It depends on the turnout. Turnout's high in Georgia, and if the state continues to shift, or the state doesn't shift anymore to the right, they're both red. If Arizona continues to shift where it's at, and turnout in Georgia stays the same, they're both tilt blue. And at that point, that effectively decides the election. These two may decide the election, like I just said. But they're going to be incredibly competitive. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for my next video, whenever that may be, and I will see you guys there. Bye.